It's okay, I can take the Muslim.
It's good Chanukah, we're all late.
Okay.
We're all late.
Tissue break.
That's it, Chanukah.
French renewal. Freedom?
What?
Okay. Okay, we're on page 212. 212. 212 is Gematria Zayin Hey Reish. Zohar means light. It's Hanukkah. This makes sense, I guess. Okay, so we started this last week. We started getting into it. Let's read it again. Let's get into it a little bit more. Let it get into us a little bit more. And then we'll see where we're taken. Because I'm still a little bit unclear. So here we go. V'achamishi. The fifth difference, ki abotech belokim hu misasek besibos ha'olam hachin mehem seid la'achriso v'sipuk lebeis moyado. Umashi yizbar lobo hatzalas teraso v'olam misasek bo. Umashi yeh shum hefse v'teraso. Or maybe lahamro zabore inen misasek bo. Shel yovi la'atzem madve tachas ha'aruch. The fifth difference, a person who relies on God involves himself in the various worldly means. That's the translation of the words misasek b'sibos ha'olam. The way that they add over here, and we've been discussing parnas and livelihood, so they add, a person who relies on God involves himself in the various worldly means of making a livelihood so that he'll be able to. Why did I stop there a second? Because it doesn't have to be discussing livelihood. A person involved in this world, certainly one of the major sugyas, sub-sugyas within Shaar habitachon that we've been learning is a person engaging in parnasa and in hishtadlus to make money. But there's many things that we do in this world that are not necessarily parnasa oriented. And again, the words of the Chavos Avavos are Keboteach belokim hu misasek besibos ha'olam lahachin mehem tzed la'achriso. That a person works in this world in order to prepare himself tzed l'derech, it's called, like provisions for the road. So it doesn't necessarily mean, doesn't have to be livelihood. It doesn't have to be. He deals with this world to prepare provisions for the end of his days and for his ultimate resting place, which is an olam haba, the world to come. Therefore, he engages only in those means of livelihood, or he engages in the means of this world, that will clearly allow him to preserve his Torah learning and his world to come. He will not engage in any means that will cause loss of Torah learning, or that will lead to rebellion against his Creator, so that he does not bring upon himself, and they add over here spiritual, because the word madve means illness, but here it means spiritual illness instead of healing. So a person with bitachon will deal with this world in a way, and involve himself in parnasa in a way that will steer clear of any isurim, any prohibitions, anything that will take him away from a Kadosh Baruch Hu, that will be considered rebelling against the Kadosh Baruch Hu. That's what bitachon can do, can help a person in this way. And we'll just skip to the 2:13, or we're going to skip right to the words of the Chavos Avavos. So, Misha inu botech belokim botech al hasibos v'sanuach daito leihen v'lo yirchak midvar mehen v'yisasik v'meshubach u'v'malguna mehen. Conversely, a person who does not rely on God relies on the means in which he engages for his livelihood and rests his mind upon them. Conversely, a person who does not rely on God relies on the means. He has trust, he has bitachon, he relies on the means in which he engages for his livelihood, and also he rests his mind upon them. Therefore, he will not distance himself from any of those means. He can't pry himself free. He's so connected to that. He's being lifted up. That's his chizik. These means, engaging in both praiseworthy and inappropriate means. He's off, so he will even involve himself in things that may be inappropriate, maybe even usher, because his reliance in this world you have to rely on something. His reliance is on these means, because these means are going to bring him chiyas, it's going to give him life, and therefore he can't pry himself away, even if it's something that's inappropriate. And the Chovos always goes back and he says he does not think about the end of his days. As the wise man, as Shlomo Melech said about them in Mishlei, a wise man fears and turns away from evil. And the verse continues that the fool passes vigorously and slips. So the Baal Bitachon, as you saw before, he prepared everything in this world that he's dealing with in this world of Gashmias, Olam Hasiyah. He's preparing provisions for the end of his days and for his ultimate resting place. He's thinking about the future, the real futures. And he ends off that the non-Baal Bitachon does not think of the end of his days. So we were discussing last week, let's see if we can get back into this, myself included. We were discussing last week about the meaning of thinking. This is the end. You have to think about thinking. Might need some extra help with this.
Amen.
And I also told you that this fifth difference, for those who are keeping track, is the meaning of Gvura. We've already worked on Malchus, and we've worked on Hod, we've worked on Netzach, we've tapped into Yesod and into Tiferes. We worked on Chesed a few weeks ago, and now we're in Gevura. Now Gevura is the ability, the strength, of course, that's the Pashut understanding. But the ultimate Gevura is when a person can hold himself back, or hold, right, the Yetzer Hara back. Ezoha Gibor, Hakovish Yitzir. And it doesn't have to be, Yetzer Hara doesn't have to necessarily be something that's evil. It doesn't have to be something that is usher necessarily. But Yetzer Hara is the we're going to just translate it like this, even though I don't like to translate it like this, but is the inclination. That's ra, that's bad. Now, bad doesn't have to be, again, prohibited. That's how we usually learn. Anything that's going to be detrimental to my life as a human being, whether I'm a Jew or not a Jew, anything detrimental to being a human being would be coming from the Yetzer Hara. It's an inclination to do bad, to be, and whenever you do bad to others, well, then you're being a bad person, which means you're being bad to yourself, really. Right? Anytime we do acts that are bad, it's really coming from a heart and a mind that must be tainted in some way. So we, by definition, are ra at that moment. So gevura is to hold back anything that might be ra. If we have been trained to do whatever, we're trained in something in education, we're trained in our work, we're trained in how to, guide our children, we're trained in anything in this world, whatever the training may be. If we were trained wrong, or we're trained not the best, so then we could be on a program of, again, I'm not talking prohibitions, we're not saying isurim, but on a program of ra, because we're off. It's just not tov. It's not good. It could be better. We're not talking about the person shouldn't have low feelings. I'm not tapping into anybody's feelings now. Just that's the reality. We're talking cold intellect. So, if a person would be going on a certain program, that's the way he was taught, and he doesn't know any better. If he would then be taught something that is correct, or maybe more correct than he's doing, he needs to be a big gibor to hold himself back from the hergel hachayim, from that which he thinks is true, that which he thinks he was taught and it's right. If someone could prove to him, which is not so simple itself, that the way he's been doing something for 20, 30 years, try telling a guy at the office who's been doing the same thing for 30 years, Taka, you're doing it a little bit wrong this whole time. I just want to tell you the right way to do it. 30 years of hergel is going to be hard to change. So who needs to be the gibor? So in the world that we live in, who's the gibor in the story? Okay, the story that we have right now is two coworkers, let's just say. Okay? One coworker's been there for 30 years, and he's doing the same thing for 30 years. Now you have the other guy who's a little bit younger, it doesn't really matter the details so much, and he comes in and he tells coworker number one, 30-year vet, listen, you're doing, this is not the best way. I know that there's a better way to do it. Here, I'll show it to you. It's a better way. And they go back and forth, and I don't know if that's true. I've moved for so long, no one said anything wrong. You can imagine the story. Now, so who's the gibor? In the regular schedule of events in the world is The guy who thinks he's right, meaning the younger coworker, is going to start raising his voice. He's going to start coming strong because he knows it's right. So he has to try to force the veteran coworker. He has to break through 30 years of Hergel, and he has to break that guy in order that he can overcome him with his correct views and force him to change. He's the real Gibor. Now we know that's not true. The real Gibor is the 30-year-old vet, if it's true that he could change things, for himself to hold himself back. He has 30 years of arrears. He has 30 years of this progress, this movement, to try to stop that for what may be a Nakud of Emes. That takes a big gvur. And it doesn't necessarily take coworker number one, the young guy, to scream and yell and to overcome him with power and strength. It doesn't lavdavka. You have to just somehow explain to this person in an appropriate way that will get him to be open to the change. If he's mamish not open, then there's nothing to do. You can't change it. Can't teach an old dog new tricks sometimes. So the true Gibor is the one who can hold himself back and chazer over maybe, or go back to the drawing board to rework that which he thought he always had worked out, and to maybe come out with a different muskan. Yeah, that's a real Gibor. That's not simple. Everybody here has been doing whatever they're doing in their religious life and their non-religious life, whatever it is. We don't want to make a separation. As being Jews, whatever that means, human beings, Jews, we've all been doing things for a long time. And it gets very hard when someone tells you, wherever it comes from. Some people are closer, it's harder. The further away the person is, it's not so difficult. But to be told, you were doing this wrong for 20, 30 years. It could be a halacha. It could be a halacha. You're just washing your tails and I'm wrong. People are washing their tails and I'm wrong. I've seen it with my own eyes. What would...
Does it have to be wrong, or could it be like, there's a better way to do it?
So it could be a better way to do it also.
So when you talk about a Gibor, it's not like what you've been doing this whole time is wrong, but now, going back to the work scenario, through technology, whatever it is, there's a way to change it to maybe
still
be
a big
efficient.
Gibor. It tells like I know a person who he does his billing. And this might be funny. He does his billing by hand.
What I'm saying is,
No. So I'm saying it still takes a big Gibor to take on new technology.
What I'm saying is, I think there's a difference. If you're doing something wrong, then I don't know if you're much of a Gibor to all of a sudden say, I'm wrong, I need to be right. As opposed to like, I'm doing it well, I don't want to do it differently because I'm already doing it.
Each
the
person,
way
everybody's different personality. It could be for you that would be that way. But for a person to admit he's wrong takes the biggest gvur in the world for some people. To admit they're wrong? Who could do that? Everybody says, no, I kid. I love that. I know I could admit, especially when you're talking to your wife. No, I always admit when I'm wrong. You never. No one admits. It's a hard thing to do. And a guy will be like, no, I do. If you say that out loud, that means you don't. So everybody should just, you have to, it's yourself. No one knows each other's world, but it's very, very difficult to admit. And what we do, just now that you're mentioning, parenthetically, it's a big Yetzer Hara. What we'll do sometimes is that we'll admit to 1%, but we'll hold on to 99%. Yeah, you're right. You're right in that one scenario. Basically, you're trying to save face. Meaning, I want to hold on to 99% that I'm not wrong, so I'll give you that 1%. It's like a trick. Like, okay, maybe they'll buy that.
Has to make a sure.
What do you say?
That's why more than the mixers.
Has to make a show on everything, right? Because you hold back. Anyway, I don't want to get off the topic here. Anyway, the Gevura is about going back, thinking deeply. I mean, the whole sefer we're talking here about Shaar habitachon, a lot of this is it takes a big Gevura, a big Gibor to go back and maybe rework things that we didn't know before, or things that we thought we knew, or mistakes that we're making really is because I actually have a pagam in my emunah. Right? We're all here, myself included. We're ma'aminim b'nei ma'aminim, so we think that we're big ma'aminim. I daven 3 times a day. I learn 2 hours a day. I do my mitzvahs. So memela, I'm a good guy. Yeah, there's some things here and there that I don't know, but I'm a ma'amin. Well, then why'd you get upset at that thing? Why did that little thing tick you off? Well, because that guy he's really annoying, or how many times am I going to lose the deal, or that person? Well, why'd you get annoyed? You believe that Borei Olam runs the world? Of course. I'm a Mammon. Of course I believe he runs the world. Well, do you believe that he ran this situation in this way? Maybe he's even doing it to test you? No, you're right. So then why are you getting upset? It's not so simple, right? It's hard to admit. It could be that we have to go back, again, myself included, I'm no different, and continue to go back to the original Nakuda, we were discussing this at the end of last week, and to strengthen that beginning. That's really what we have to do here.
You can use your idea of bitachon as an excuse for doing things wrong.
But if we go back to the beginning, I mean, we have to do our hishtadlus.
You have to recognize at the end of the day you're human. Right?
We are human.
Okay, and human beings make mistakes.
Human beings make mistakes.
Okay,
so we have a world of hishtadlus and bitachon.
Hashem made the world too.
Everything in this world is hishtadlus and bitachon. So even when we're trying to re-educate ourselves, there's hishtadlus and bitachon. I'm going to try. I really want to know the MS. I know that going to the MS, maybe there are pitfalls. Could be. But I bitachon that I'm trying, and of you'll take me the right way. That's it. So everything in life can be with hishtadlus and bitachon, and this as well. So going back to the beginning is going back to the beginning of time, is going back to Emunah 101, going back to Bitachon 101, and relearning things and strengthening ourselves and trying to process from like Lamaila, then Milamala, Lamat. Like we have, why am I discussing this here? I could have discussed this really any time, and I probably haven't, just in different words. But we're discussing over here, engaging in Olam Hazeh, working things that we generally weren't taught from a God-first perspective. We're taught as being human, we grow up, we learn how to walk, we learn how to eat, you go to high school, you go to college, you get a job, you get married. That's just what you do. You're a human being. But that might not be 100% right? That means you've missed the first step. There's a creator. There's a Borei Olam. There's a Manhig Olam. And there's a certain program that he wants us to take hold of that everything has to fit into. I mean, the Greeks, let's talk about Yavon, we're in Hanukkah. The Greeks also believed in a Tov Avo, and then there was an earth god, and all these gods that came about and created the world, that put the world from chaos into tikkun. Right? But what they don't have the original Ribbon Shalom. I mean, they might have, and there's different, I'm no expert, I can't even touch anything like Greek, anything. But I know that I think there might be a machlokas if there was, right, they started off with chaos. Tovo. There might have been an original creator to that chaos, but what they believe in is a constantly ever evolution of gods, changing. There's this one, then you have the Olympians and the Titans, anybody who's learned any of this stuff, they overtake each other, they fight. It's like, it's chaos. Even after the chaos should be, rectified, there's constant chaos in their world. The difference that what we have is that we have one Ribbon Shalom who created the world, who's going to be from the beginning to the end, and he's everything in between. When you have that worked out well and stark, and it's thought about, the beginning and the end, then everything in between can be somewhat of a smooth ride. Not that there aren't going to be ups and downs in life. The externals of life, the weather changes, money goes up and down, health goes up and down. That stuff, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will do as he pleases. But the way that we react, the way that we engage in the world and we deal with these ups and downs, if you have the proper beginning and you have the proper end, then you're better off. There's always going to be ups and downs, even in our own brains. We're humans. But we have to solidify what we have in this world. You tell a kid, I remember I gave you the mashal last week, whoever was here. The kid, he had to wake up for a minyan. Remember that kid? Versus the adult who has to wake up for a minyan, he knows he has to go, he just doesn't know which minyan. Versus the kid, he gets up. I don't know if I want to go today. Right? He knows he should go, but his laziness is very, very powerful. He has yet to create a herigel of going to minyan, or the appreciation of it. So you might go to the kid and say, listen, this is what the school say, right? There's a lot of olam haba waiting for you. If you do these mitzvahs, you're building a brick in the base of Mikdash. You have a lot of schar and olam haba. There's a lot of good stuff waiting for you. You know, it's kedai. The kid's in his bed. He's already only slept for like 5 hours. His eyes like half wide open. He's like, no, I'll forgo that olam haba stuff. It's okay. I'll catch it later. Catch it in a few hours.
A crack in the head will straighten it out.
There's a mahalach like that. We spoke about that last week. There is that mahalach, the crack in the head. It's a motivating factor.
Straighten them out very quickly.
I think that works.
But that lavdavka, that's going to teach him how to be.
It does work. You start early.
Yeah. If anybody needs help, I'm not going to name over their names, but
Start early.
so what am I getting at still? Getting a lot of things. That which we dangle in front of even ourselves, or we dangle in front of, the children about the olam haba stuff, which is all true. It's always been true. It usually stops after like 5th, 6th grade, right? You don't have like an 8th grade Rebbe saying, "Guys, let's go. We got to learn now. We got to keep your fingers in the Gemara because olam haba. You got to get those points in olam haba." Because it doesn't really work so well. Why doesn't it work so well? Because we're not mechazik the beginning. But the olam haba is the end. We have to strengthen the beginning. Usually, again, like I said last week, when we live life, we take for granted things. At a certain point, it's for granted. There is a Rabbanu Shalom. We've all taken it for granted. And now we just move on to more complicated, more sophisticated, more technical inyanim of Avodas Hashem. How often do we go back and rework that original nakuda of there's a Borei Olam? How many times are you thinking about that? The person says, "Oh, you mean I'm thinking about it all the time. I daven, I learn." You're not thinking about the first nakuda. You're thinking about something along the lines. Yes, Hashem tells you to daven, Hashem tells you to. But how conscious are we even of davening when we say Baruch Atah Hashem? When we say those words, what are you thinking about when you say those words? Or are you just thinking about the words that you're saying the words Baruch Atah Hashem, and you hear yourself saying those words? That's good. But are we thinking about the Rabbanu Shalom? Is he really in our life? The original nakuda. For those who know, we're learning Bilvavi. I'm talking all Bilvavi talk. Emunah 101, but stark. Because if we could strengthen that original nakuda with Emunah and then ultimately bitachon, so then what we're going to do is that when you create an original nakuda of Emunah bitachon, and then, of course, we believe in Olam Haba, right? We've discussed that, and we have to trust. It's hard to. We're not there. We never tasted or touched it. But we have discussed that through bitachon, a person can live in this world, this actual world, he can live a little bit l'mayla min hateva. And you could taste a little bit of what's going to be even in this world. When everybody's going crazy, the world's going crazy about some Indian, and you have real bitachon, and you're not bothered by it. You're living olam haba, shel olam hazeh. The whole world, olam hazeh, is shaking up and down. They're in a world of chaos. They're in a world of Greek mythology. There's this god. They'll just throw another god. There's the god of the stock market. And there's the god of when the stock market goes down. And then there's the god of the stock market when it goes up. Just constant chaos. But when you have one Rabbanu Shalom that you really believe and trust in from the beginning, and you really, really trying your best to believe and trust him at the end, because you're not there, we don't really know, then we're able to live in this world. This is what the Chavos is teaching us. We can live a life of bitachon, of calm, in this world with the Rabbanu Shalom, hand by hand. The whole world could be in chaos, but you're with the same Rabbanu Shalom that was in the beginning of time and the end of time. That's the Hanukkah story. That small light never went away. It might be hidden for some time. It's a little bit dark. But now look at what the Yavana wanted to do, to stamp out and start another thing, and then start another thing, and another wisdom, and another philosophy, and another taiva. It was all pieces. The Yidden said, no, there's a chiddush. Why were they even looking for this oil? Why would there be oil there? Yavana destroyed everything. Everything. Right? At the end of the day, we know that everything was destroyed except for one flask. So if you walked into the base of Mikdash, you're a Kohen, and you saw what went on, would you even have a havamina to think, to look for oil? You would just be on the floor crying. Okay, and at some point you get up and let's rebuild. I don't know. We got to do this again. We'll get oil. It's going to come from, the shape of Usher. It's going to take 8 days, and we'll get it again. Who's looking for such an oil? That's probably the biggest miracle. That these Kohanim, Bali Bitachon, like the same ones who were Maccabeim, Micha Mocha Beilam Hashem, They lived with Micha Mocha, that's Maccabee. Micha Mocha Be'elam Hashem, who's like a Kadosh Baruch Hu. Amongst all the gods, the Greek gods, there's only one. And if we believe and trust him that he started everything, he's going to end everything, then nothing could be fully destroyed. There's no such thing. It's impossible to fully eradicate Kedusha. Ramat Zuber speaks about this. So they felt 100% there has to be some oil. It has to be. It can't be total chaos. It can't be. We don't have that. If you live in a world of the Rabbanu Shalom, Amunah B'Tachon, it cannot be total chaos. It's impossible. There always has to be a Nekuda Tova. There always has to be a little bit of Shem. There always has to be a Neshama. There always has to be a Kusta D'Chiyusa. All the different Lashonas. The Luzbon. Whatever you want to say. They're all the same. They're just different Bechinas. They're the same thing. There has to be. And therefore the Kohanim went for it. What's Gematria Kohen? 25 and 50. 75 is B'Tachon. Kohen is B'Tachon. That's the Gematria. It's the need of Avram Avinu. He left at 75. Asher Areka, I'll show you. Kashba says that. You just keep going. Areka, I'll show you. There's a flask. It's there. You just keep looking for it. Habitachon. And therefore, it strings together your entire life. Whatever it's Gashmias or Ruch, it doesn't matter. It's all one program. From the beginning to the end. This world is a prosdor to the big Traklin. This is one big corridor to the ultimate end, which is Olam Haba, Mashiach, whatever exactly that is. We believe in it. We don't know exactly what it is. We believe it's there. And the way that you could taste it and buy into it even more is when you live with the Emunah B'Tachon at the beginning, and you live with the Emunah B'Tachon at the end, and then in this world, the Olam Hazeh, you could taste the Olam Haba. That's the biggest chizik of all. The whole world is in shambles, and you say, no, I believe in a Kadosh Baruch Hu. It's going to be okay. And you're living in that state of calm. Is there any greater chizik that there's such a thing called Emunah B'Tachon? B'Tachon doesn't mean that money is going to fall from Shemayim. That's not what B'Tachon means. B'Tachon means that we can hold on to a Kadosh Baruch Hu in this world, even in the world of Gashmis, in the lowest of the low, and say, Ein Shum Yesh. Gam ki Eilich Begetz Amavas Lo Ira Ra Ki Ato Imadi. That's what it means. That was the difference between Yochanan and the Maccabees at that time, in the Yidden.
Still not understanding what it means beginning. I'm sorry.
So the beginning
we're
is...
Not, we're not going back in time. Do you mean back to basics, back to fundamentals?
Yes. Going back to Emunah B'Tachon 101.
And like right now, in this...
Right now,
in this moment, to go back to the basics.
through our learning,
Right.
through our thinking time,
To infuse that into everything that we're already doing on a specific...
not infuse yet.
Right.
First is to build the Emunah and the B'Tachon. And we have a guidebook, if anybody wants.
So what does it mean beginning? We're not quite... We can't go back to...
Kodesh
We lost
Baruch Hu.
out.
Kodesh Baruch Hu. That's what I'm saying. There's a sefer that we have, and there's other svarim that can be used. Let's say Bilvavi. If you've never learned Bilvavi, it's Kedai. We have copies. We'll get for you. What he does is he takes the first Nakud of all, which is the Kodesh Baruch Hu himself, and he sits on that for 200 pages. How could that be? I got it already. Zaburi only created the world in 7 days. I got it already.
Back to basics. Back to the fundamentals.
Back to the fundamentals. Build that. Gvura. Hold yourself back from moving forward. Then you can infuse it into your life's details. If you do it too fast, you're going to make mistakes. You're not ready yet. So when we're talking about Gashmis, we're talking about livelihood, we have to know that every single one of us came into that world without working on our Emunah as much as we have now. And we even have more. And we can have more. So if we want to be able to live through the livelihood, the Gashmis, in a healthy way, first, non-stressful, or as little as possible, lessen the anxiety, the worry, the doubts, the anger, all that stuff, which we discussed. And we want to make sure that what we're doing in this Olam Ha'asiyah, Parnasa being a very large part of it, it will not take away from his Torah learning. Because when you have the prosdor, the corridor, right, that's the middle. Beginning is the Rebbeinu Shalom, the end is the Rebbeinu Shalom, and we have this big corridor that we're living through. So whether it's what we call Gashmis or Ruchnius, that's what we usually call, they come hand in hand. We're walking through this corridor together. Myself, with my Gashmis and my Ruchnius, together I go. Being coming from a Kadosh Baruch Hu, walking towards a Kadosh Baruch Hu. And therefore, neither one should take away from the other. There's a balance that we can work on. When you have bitachon, you can make the proper balance. If you don't have bitachon, then we're going to choose the side of Gashmias, the side of the Olam Asiyah, the side that's in your face more. Right? So the Baal Bitachon is able to make proper balance, he's able to think straight. Through his life of Ruchnis, he's holding two bags. That's our whole life. A bag of Ruchnis and the Gashmis. It's really one. It's all me. But sometimes a person can make a mistake because his thinking is off, because he doesn't have the proper bitachon, and therefore he's going to incline himself one way, maybe towards inclination of the Yetzer Ra. It's going to incline that way. He's not going to be a proper balance. So that's what we have to go back, and we have to understand that, and we have to challenge ourselves on this nakuda. A person relies on God, involves himself in the various worldly means. We deal with Gashmias. I want to take out the unbold for a second. We deal with Gashmias, whatever that is. To prepare for visions at the end of his days, that's our whole life. We know. We are, all of us, whether it's Klal Yisrael at large, the world at large, Klal Yisrael as a people, each one of us befrat. We all have a beginning of the journey, and we're all walking towards Olam Haba. Right? That's our goal, to get to Olam Haba. So where are our eyes? Are we preparing the provisions for the end? The Baal Bitachon is. Even when he involves himself in the various means of Gashmis, he's preparing provisions for the end of his days and for his ultimate resting place, which we've discussed. It doesn't have to be the ultimate resting place. You can also live a little bit of Me'ain, on Me'ain Olam Haba. We've discussed Me'ain Olam Haba in this world. If you tell the kid, you know what, get up now, because you're going to get some points in Olam Haba. You can't even imagine the sweetness. Kid's like, I don't know, the sweetness of my sleep right now is just fine. But if you could teach a kid how getting up and being on time for things and taking responsibility for things, strengthening yourself, actually feels good. To be a Baal Achrayis feels good. It actually feels, it's a deep good. And sometimes you have to go through outer pain, right? Doing things that are difficult, things that you have to stay up late for. We have to take a Achrayis for things that you didn't necessarily want to take a Achrayis for, but when you take it and you become a Baal Achrayis, you feel strong. It's an inner strength that you can't get by lifting weights. And it's an inner strength that you'll never taste if you're just a lazy person, obviously. But when you have, if that's part of the program, and that is made by Kadosh Baruch Hu also, that's what a Kadosh Baruch Hu wants. Of course he wants you to daven, but to give the kid Olam Haba points is not going to work right now. But to give him Olam Haba, Sheba Olam Hazeh points, over time you could train the person for that. Over time, first we have to train ourselves. Taste a little Olam Haba, Sheba Olam Hazeh in this world, and you'll see things much, much different. You'll be able to train people that way also, because you've tasted it. Not just, it's going to be there, I don't know what it looks like, I don't know, but I heard it's good, so you should also do all these hard, difficult things because it's going to be good. It doesn't work so much. So if we have this, we're preparing provisions for the end of his days and his ultimate resting place. So therefore he engages, meaning we engage only in those means of livelihood or in the world of God, in anything in Gashmias, that will clearly allow him to preserve his Torah learning and his world to come. And his world. So it doesn't just mean Torah, actual Zman of Torah. It means anything that we're able to connect to Kadosh Baruch Hu with. We make mistakes because there's the Gashmias that's in our face, that we see, and then there's the quote-unquote Ruchnias, which is not in our face. And when we get nervous about things, I'm going to say this again, we're mitzamtzem. When we become stressed, we become constricted. Our minds are not as open as they usually are, right? Become very focused, narrow. When a person's in an emergency situation, when there's danger, even physical danger. Not that we're talking about physical danger, but what happens? Your entire system focuses on that danger. You can't think about what you had for lunch today. You probably can't even remember if someone asks you, what did you have for lunch today? If there's an enemy coming at you, you don't even remember what you eat for breakfast. You don't remember that you're human. You just need to run. So this is by all danger. what we perceive as danger. It could be emotional danger. It could be whatever's a danger. Stress is a danger to our system. We become constricted, tight. You can't see out of it. This is the opposite of gvura, right? Gvura is we are able to proactively be mitzamtzem ourselves when we need to. But when the outside is being mitzamtzem us, and my mind is closing off, I'm not able to be open, then that's the Yetzer Hara's grip on the tzimtzum. And then we make mistakes. Then we make mistakes. And we can't see straight. And then we start engaging in more gashmis than we should be. There's no rules here, there's no exact numbers. But these are yisodos. This is the chachma. How to infuse it lamaisa takes time. But first we have to buy into the program. Again, and all of this is really based on the 7 conditions of being a habitachon, which was based on really having a emunah and believing in Kadosh Baruch Hu. There's beginnings of everything. And it's very kedai to go back to those beginnings, chazik them strong, and engage with them. And engage with them, whether it's in learning, whether it's in speaking. I'm not talking about davening 3 times a day. That also needs an infusion of emunah. Speaking with your own language. Speak to Kadosh Baruch Hu. The others did it. Moshe Rabbeinu did it. David Melech did it. They were the biggest Baalei Bitachon in the world. How did they become that? Because they created it through their dibur. It's a very important facet. We brought that in a lot in the world of Bitachon. You have to speak to a Kadosh Baruch Hu. You have to speak about a Kadosh Baruch Hu. How else do you buy into him? Right? You know what I'm saying?
It's from the Yetzer Hara, but it's real. It's very difficult to fix the foundation of the building after you've built floors and floors and floors and you have rehab. It's very, very hard to
That's true. You're right.
fix up the foundations.
Right. So sometimes
That's what I'm hearing.
you have to break it all down.
Blow it out.
Start
You
again.
can't, you can't break it all down because there's collateral damage.
Well, breaking it down in our lives doesn't mean die.
No, I understand. But still, there's still.
Of course, we're not a physical structure, so we have the ability in our minds because we're built from 3 layers, at least 3 layers, 3 levushay nefesh. Physical actions, that's the physical building. But we're also built from a world of emotions and a world of mind. That's a Baruch Hashem. He created us in this way. Because if we were only asiyah, we're a table and there's a crack, or you're a kli cheres, becomes tameh, gotta crack it. You can't fix it. Because He gave us the ability of mind, and He gave us the ability of tshuva, and He gave us emunah bitachon, you can go back in time right now. And we could fix up, and we can either fix up cracks, or we could rebuild foundations, or build foundations that we never had. Who Rebbe says, or like whoever says that. I also don't believe in the God that you don't believe in. Or Rebbe says it in a different way. He says, you never met the Rebbeinu Shalom. Like, what are you talking about? It's the same thing. It's the same shus. We're just talking about specifically emunah bitachon. So we can always go back. Maybe we never built the yesod. Maybe we just think we have it. Again, it takes a gevura. Because what do you mean? I think I have it. But we can go back. Who is the gibor? The Yevanim? Is this what Chanukah is about? Who's the real gibor? The Rabbin Biyad Ma'atim. That's what it is. It's not about kamus. Chanukah teaches us that it's not about kamus. It's not about numbers. It's not about strength physically. It's about the small light, the small people, the small Torah learners, the small tzaddikim, the ones that have the will. If you have a ratzon, if there's a will, there's a way. A little bit of a will, little ratzon. You can go back deep and you can recreate. And then the big world of Gashmias, the big world of livelihood, which is so scary. And we understand, we're humans, it is scary in some ways. The big companies, the big money, the big stuff, the Gashmias versus Ruchnias. That's the same sugya. Gashmias is Yevanim, Gashmias is, not all Gashmias is bad, you understand. Gashmias, Yevanim, Kamus, Chitzonius, darkness versus the little light, the little Jews, the little neshama, even Kadosh Baruch Hu. Even Kadosh Baruch Hu. He's the tachlis of Anava in this world. You see this world. Look how big this world is. Who sees the Rebbeinu Shalom? How many people see Rebbeinu Shalom? Very small amount. Yeah, we believe Kadosh Baruch Hu is the biggest, no? But in this world of Ruchnias, the good guys are small. The good guys are little. And it takes a big will. It takes a strong will to go into that place and not care what the world says, because the world is big and bad and dark. And Gashmis is big, and there's a lot of worries, a lot of doubts. It takes a big, big person to go into that place. To connect back to the beginning, Rabban Shalom in a strong way, hold his hand. First you have to build a relationship. Then you hold his hand, going through. The world is spinning. There's a lot of stuff going on, current events, whether in the world or my monetary stuff. There's a lot of stuff going around the circle. A lot of stuff. Crazy, shaking, earth-shattering. Big, loud. But the Kol Dama Madaka, it's that quiet, it's the sweetness, it's the Amidah, it's Shemon Esrei Lefnei HaMelech, that little light that can just last 8 days, it can just keep going and going. And if you have bitachon that it's there, like the Kohanim, then you can find it. If you have bitachon that it's there, then you'll go and find it. You'll always have the ability to go and find it. And the small will win. We've been doing it for a long time now. As a nation, we've been doing it for a very long time. We're always the smallest, and yet we always win. So in our own lives, we have the war against a way of thinking. Are we going to fall prey to the loud Olam Hazeh and the loud Gash and the loud worries? And we have to battle. Or are we going to listen to that Kol Dama Madaka? Are we going to try to stay calm, even when it's very loud, and try to find that Pach Shemen within ourselves, that Ol Neshama, that Amun, that Bitachon? And if we fall, get back up. Because you can always find it. If the Beis HaMikdash could be in shambles with the Tumah of Yavanim, with a nation like them, and yet we could start again. So every one of us in our little falls in life, we could also get back up. Why not? If you have bitachon, if you don't, then you're going to have ups and downs in life anyway, but it's not going to be an enjoyable ride. All right, Michelle, we'll continue next week.
Amen.